Well, hello and welcome. Those of you that are joining us on just the audio on Clubhouse may not have seen, but what I did is I threw out a whole bunch of money with one of the money throwing pistols, I guess you call it. I don't know what you call it. In any event, hi, how are you? Hope you're feeling great. I am Evie Diaz, strategic growth speaker and author of the Manifest Your Fab Future Self Now. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I first heard from one of my current teachers, and that is how manifesting wealth is more than just money. And the interesting thing about this today, that I'm going to be referencing a survey, a study, if you will, that I just found out about as I was researching this, because, earlier this week when I heard that, it intrigued me, and I don't know if it intrigues you, but before we go there, why don't you start by letting me know where you are, who are you, what's your name, what do you do, what do you want to learn about, what do you want to talk about? So let me know, where are you tuning in from? Are you on Clubhouse? Are you on YouTube? Are you on LinkedIn? Facebook? Where in the world also are you? I want to know, are you in the US? Where are you? So today, when I heard this, it kind of intrigued me, this whole idea of wealth is more than just money. And I'm going to share with you the study where I found this, because I want to go ahead and get right into that and look at this research, this survey. And let me just go ahead and share. I'm going to be sharing right here where I found this. And, you can put your comments, if you don't mind, right there in the chat, because I want to hear from you. So, first of all, I'm going to be referencing an article that came out on June 12th. Just 2 days ago, this article came out. Wealth is more than money. This article came out in Charles Schwab. And although I primarily talk about manifesting money by practicing the FAB method, which stands for feel, act, and be. And feeling is how you vibrate, the energy that you're putting out. Acting, it refers to how are your actions and what actions do you have to take to feel and be your rich, wealthy self. And then B is about being, about believing, about behaving in the way that you believe your future self will be, and behaving in that way now. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And today, I do want to go ahead and share my screen here and share this particular, I guess it's like a blog that I found. And let me see if I can put this over here. Let's see if I can move this. Okay, I think you can see it there, right? Maybe I can make myself smaller and this screen bigger, but I think you can see it. And this is, you can find this if you want in the Charles Schwab website. And like I said, it just so happens to be that I was Googling, because I heard one of my teachers this week talk about this, that wealth is infinite, but money is finite. And so I said, well, let's take a look at that, at what he means, and perhaps what I can find as I'm looking. So, right there, let's look at this. The meaning of wealth, it says, goes far beyond having a lot of money. And so it goes back to what I learned earlier this week about that whole idea that wealth is much more than money, because money is finite. And so let's see, I see someone in the chat. Please make sure you let me know who you are and where you are. So, yeah, so I started thinking about that idea of money as they reference here. Let me just make sure that we're on here Just checking to make sure that you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, and so that kind of got me interested in that topic. So let's just take a quick. Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to make sure that you can hear me and I can see that. Okay, so let's take a look at that whole notion of what does wealth mean to you? And I think they may be doing this particular survey every year. And at Schwab, yes, every year they survey people and they have, I guess, several questions. And I'm going to make this a little bigger so that you can see it better there in the screen. Okay. So, what it says, as you can see it there, is that every year they survey about 1,000 Americans. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. Okay. In what they call the 2023 Modern Wealth Survey. And what they found is what I'm going to share with you today. Okay. And so it says here 70% said that wealth is more about not having stress over money. Do you agree with that? Wealth, what is your definition of wealth? I would like to know what is your definition of wealth? And then I'm going to share with you what the survey showed as a definition for wealth. So, number one, here they show not having to stress over money. Now, isn't that wonderful? Defining wealth as not having to stress over money. I mean, one of the reasons why I came up with the method feel, act, and be fab was because I truly believe that one of the reasons that we want wealth, that we want, not what wealth means, this is slightly different, that we want wealth is because of the feelings that we associate with wealth. And I came up with Fab Rich only because that's what I was inspired to write in my book. I've always liked the word wealth more than rich. And I don't know if that'll change in the future before the book gets printed out. But I was inspired to FAB rich. And so I wrote it as such. And I thought about the feelings, and so it's interesting that when you talk about what wealth means, most people, most Americans, I at least, wealth is about not stressing over money. Because how many times do we stress over money? Primarily because we feel we don't have enough or there is just not enough. I mean, I am reading Jensen Sero's book, You're a Badass at Making Money. By the way, we're reading it as a group inside the Fab Rich community, which by all means, you are encouraged to check out our Fab Rich community if you're a woman. It is currently free, the membership. So go to fabrich.com and check it out for yourself. And so I was thinking about this, about what are these meanings of wealth. So, enjoying experiences. How many of you can relate to wealth being about the feelings? The feelings. And then wealth gives you experiences. I know for me, I want to attract and manifest wealth in my life because I do want to enjoy more experiences. And it's interesting, like I never thought about it like experiences. I remember 2 years ago, my sister booked this lavish vacation, which was a fun vacation. She called it an experience where we stayed in a bubble overnight in the mountains in the middle of nowhere in the island of Puerto Rico. And it was really cool. You probably seen like it's just like a huge bubble. It's transparent and that's where you sleep, but everything else it's outside in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. And it was truly beautiful. I mean, I totally enjoyed it. And it was the experience. And so my sister was the one that alerted me to that idea of creating experiences. So for many people, the idea of that experience is what wealth is about. Like, can you create that experience? And so I'm wondering for you if it's the same thing. Is it about that experience that you want to feel? You know? And so for my sister, I remember she was talking about that experience. And yes, indeed, we could have more experiences now when we set up to have those type of experiences, right? And when we have money, we can have more of those experiences that we want. It's also about this idea of having a healthy work life balance, right? It's about, are you balancing? And that's interesting, especially for entrepreneurs, because many times for us, we think that we have to be working, working, working. And, for a long time, I've been someone that's been like proud to say, oh my God, look at my huge to do list. Look at everything I accomplished today. Look at all the things that I've done today. And more, I want to do less. In the Fab Rich journal that I created, I talk about you focusing on three things a day, three things for the year, three big things for the year that you want to accomplish. So focus in narrowing in this huge to do list. Forget about the to do list and instead narrow in on your three biggest goals, aspirations, intentions, if you will. And then every day focus on three things or three inspired actions that you intend to take towards manifesting, creating, achieving those three big goals for the year. And so when we talk about creating wealth, right? Every day we have an opportunity to create wealth. And that's versus every day we have an opportunity to make money, because yes, we could, and it sometimes doesn't happen every day when we're entrepreneurs. Sometimes you do not make a sale every day, or do not get a speaking engagement every day, or someone doesn't buy your book every day. Those are all things we want, right? And yet, when we talk about wealth, we can be doing at least three things every day towards creating wealth. So, for example, me reviewing this article with you on live stream is about me creating wealth. Number one, about me showing that I'm interested in this, sharing it with you, sharing information with you, and growing my reach and my impact. So it could be said that today in our show, which we call the Fab Rich Women Wealth Creation Wednesday show, we are indeed creating wealth, because you've heard that knowledge is wealth, right? Yes. And so we could say every day we have an opportunity, a chance to create wealth by the things, the inspired actions, as I like to refer to them, that we do every day to get us closer to those bigger aspirations that we have. And so, continuing to look at this survey by Charles Schwab, we see that wealth means being in good health. And as we get older, we become more in tune with how much health is really wealth. Our health is our wealth, because you've known of very wealthy people who have not had good health, and all the money in the world sometimes has not helped them to recoup their health. And this is kind of like challenging sometimes, at least for me, because I like to walk and dance, and I don't always do it. And my intention is every day to move more, because I realize that my body has been changing as, I mature. And I realize more and more the importance of health and health as wealth. And so, as you can see in this survey from Charles Schwab that I'm not the only one feeling that health is wealth, because that is something that if we want to create wealth every day, we want to focus on hap- healthy habits, right? Yes, absolutely. We want to do things to make our future self be that who we want to be. So what I mean by that, and this is interesting, and some of the things that I've learned from one of my teachers, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, about thinking about the future self in terms of health means that perhaps, and I'm just giving you my thoughts on what I have heard, that is to say that instead of eating more chocolate, and I'm talking personally because this is one of my challenges, I'm replacing the chocolate sugary treats with more fruits that I love, like pineapple, raspberries, bananas. So I am replacing sugary snacks that make me fat and perhaps give me an up, but then bring me down and, don't really prevent me from feeling lethargic, that I can replace it with healthier foods. And although I may be thinking that's for my future self, and my future self could be in 2 years or 7 years, it could be when I have a big birthday, at least for me, or it could be whenever for you, whenever you decide that that's your future self. But today, being my future self now, I could decide for my wealthy self, if I see myself wealthy in the future, do I want to enjoy that wealth by being healthy? And so, by thinking about that, maybe for just 1 minute before I pick up the chocolate cookies or chocolate cake or chocolate ice cream, I can think about where do I see myself in 2 years, 7 years, and is that how I see my future self? And of course, to do this, in my journal, what I do is first define who your future self is, right? And continue defining it, as you want to or feel a need to. Continue defining and writing more as your future self so you can really become in tune, in touch with that future self that you want to see manifest in the future. And the more that you do, the easier it becomes to know what are those inspire actions that you want to take towards wealth creation. And so, continuing here with this survey, enjoying healthy relationship with family and loved ones, that is something that is about wealth. When you have loved ones that you could enjoy it with, that you can be with, that you can experience this life with, right? Having more money than most people I know, I don't know about that, but that was one of the things that people responded. Owning many nice things, maybe, I don't know. Could be owning things that I want to own. I don't know about the nice things, but that's what people responded. Maximizing my earnings, even if it impacts my work life balance. It's interesting that 31% of people said that that was what wealth meant to them. Being successful, that one I can relate to, because wealth to me is a representation of success. So if I am successful, to me, it means that my results, the wealth that I've created, is showing. Now, let me look at the actual, what I believe I found here, this 13-page PDF, which I believe are the actual results from the survey. So let's take a look. They talk about the methodology that they use for this particular survey. Let's see if I can make this slightly bigger again so that you can see it better. Okay, I think you may be able to see it. So they talked a little bit about the methodology that they use right there. So they conducted this through a third party, and it was from March to March 13 of this year, 2023. And they asked Americans ages 21 to 75. So 1,000 people. And apparently, as you can see here, they had people that were Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and boomers. So of the 1,000 people, they had a little spread. So that's good. That way we can all relate and see. It says while Americans say you need 2.2 million to be wealthy in 2023, Americans who feel wealthy have much lower actual net worth. How interesting. Americans who feel wealthy, so it's interesting because we're talking about in this survey what people define as wealth and how manifesting wealth is much more than money. And this particular sentence reflects that to me because we're seeing that Americans who feel wealthy have a much lower net worth. So although many may say that it's over that $2 million mark, right? Interesting, that number. Some may say more, some may say less. Most of the wealthy Americans actually had an actual lower than that, the net worth. And here's what we looked at. So 48% of Americans feel wealthy. 48%. That's actually really good that so many people feel wealthy, right? How do you feel? Do you feel wealthy? Do you want to feel wealthy? How can you feel wealthy? And what are some of those feelings that are bringing that feeling of wealth? So let's see if this study by Charles Schwab that was just conducted in March tell us about that. So the average net worth of those who feel oh my gosh, wealthy, actually had about 560,000. That was their net worth. Interesting. Okay, millennials, it says here, are most likely to feel wealthy today. So the millennials versus, let's see, they looked at the Gen C's, the Gen X, and the boomers, and they compare how they felt, if they felt wealthy. And it's interesting that the millennials felt more wealthy. This is interesting for me because my husband and I, over the weekend, we were having this discussion about we are both Gen X, and we've come to believe that the boomers probably had the most money of any of these generations that were surveyed here in this Charles Schwab study. And it's interesting that according to this particular study, the millennials were the ones that felt wealthy. And I have two nieces that are millennials. And it's interesting because the way that they think and the way that they feel is so much different than me and than me at their age, in that I could see that they do have this feeling of abundance. And that's kind of interesting because they're younger, they're in their 20s, the millennials, and maybe early 30s, and they have that feeling of abundance. And I can tell you from just my nieces that it's true that they feel more abundance, that they act as if they are abundance. So this brings me back to that feel, act, and be, in that, when they want to do something, they just go ahead and plan for it, you know. And both of them, by the way, are doing relatively well um, in managing whatever abundance they have. And the interesting thing is that I would say, if I were to really look at their financial assets, I would say, no, they're not wealthy to me, especially not compared to this study. And to me, I wouldn't say they were, right? But in their mind and in their feelings, they feel wealthy, which I could understand in this survey, the millennials' point of view, because I see it. I see it in my nieces, which makes me think back again to my method, feel, act, and be. So I really believe that it is about that feeling. And how can we feel more wealthy? Number one, it may be by redefining what wealth means, and this particular study, and I believe in divine intervention, divine, inspiration that brought me these thoughts, because last night I was really debating, like, what should I talk about today? I had so many things in mind that I want to talk about, and so many different topics that have come through my journaling this week. And then all of a sudden, this came, and this was the second time this week that I heard about this idea about wealth is more than just money, and about wealth being more about really more abundance and money being more limited. And then it's interesting that they talk about the feelings of wealthiness by generation. And so it makes me feel like I'm really onto something about us really garnishing the feelings that we want to feel. And so I'm just going to pause here and then I'll continue because today I do have to end early because I have a 3 p.m. meeting. So when you define who your future self is, at the beginning you may define of as of things that you want, but then at least for me this is how it's been. It's more about the feelings and how you feel, like feel secure, feel confident, feel healthy, feel joyful, feel happy, feel accomplished, feel successful, all these feelings. So the feel act and be method that I created, that I was inspired through my divine source, is about how do we garnish those feelings. And so one of the easiest things to do for me is, change the environment. If I'm hooked up to the environment, meaning if I feel that I'm being affected by the environment, and I feel that I still am, and what I believe is that I want to move away from allowing my environment, say the noise that I'm hearing from construction around me, the noise of the TV or music or people, to going more within, to actually listening to my thoughts, and to knowing where in my body do I have different feelings and what do they feel like, and recalling moments when I felt joyful, when I felt happy, when I felt satisfied, when I felt wealthy. Right. And then how can I bring about those feelings when I want to bring them up? Meaning, if I'm feeling particularly low because perhaps I had an expectation of something happening and it didn't happen, instead of me allowing myself to be affected by the environment, I think about good feelings. And so I also can think about what I learned from something, the good feelings, and also I could also redefine what wealth is, right? And so by redefining wealth, like for example, wealth is me reading, me studying, me learning, me sharing, me engaging with more people, me impacting more people, me reaching out to more people. All that is part of wealth creation, which is what this show is about, Wealth Creation Wednesday. Then when I redefine what wealth means to me, then that changes the life game and the wealth creation, and it becomes wealth creation more than money creation. And yes, today I started by, sharing the money flying, right? Because generally, that's how most of the time we define money. And yet, the more that I study and the more that I have these videos that I share with you, the more that my feelings, my beliefs, my thoughts about all this changes, and I begin to see and experience things slightly different. So I just wanted to share that with you. So let's continue here to look at this survey by the Charles Schwab Logical Research, it says. So here it says, when describing wealth, in their own words, more Americans reference well being over money and assets. So that's interesting. And once again, it brings us to that thought, that idea about health being wealth, about how we experience wealth has a lot to do with our health. And so that's where well being comes through. But isn't it interesting that the luxury and the giving in this particular survey went all the way to the end. And then in the top four, necessities was number four. Hmm. that's a bit interesting to me also. Like, I think that for me, the necessities of life would be more important. So here is Americans generally choose non financial assets when asked to choose which better describes wealth. So having a fulfilling personal life, right, over the monetary, working on my career is more important and was chosen more by the Americans who completed this survey, not having stress over money. And then all the way at the bottom, spending money now to have more experiences or sacrificing experiences now in order to save more money for later. Well, that's interesting because as I have learned more about the future self from Dr. Benjamin Hardy, is that idea of not so much using the word sacrifice, that's a bit of a limiting word for me, but perhaps changing from this world that we live in, that everything has to happen yesterday or right away, to holding off a little bit so that we can enjoy it more later. So, what do I mean by that? So, the example that's coming to mind is if I want a lavish, luxurious vacation, and the one that I want is, let's say, $10,000, right? So, do I choose to go in a semi lavish vacation now? Say that is $2,000 per person, say $4,000 combined now, or do I hold off, have a much smaller one, let's say a $1,000 mini vacation, and hold off until and say until a year from now, right? I could do the $10,000 luxury vacation, right? So I hold off. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think about that? So I don't like using the word sacrifice. I just think that I change the perspective of this idea that I have to have it right now and move from this idea of thinking more about my future self, which, in the way that I said it, maybe you're like, oh, well, what if you don't live till tomorrow? If you don't make it to tomorrow, whatever. Versus this idea of when you're thinking more in the health part of me postponing eating the chocolate, right? And waiting like 5 minutes, say, well, do I really want this chocolate, let's say cookie or cake or ice cream, whatever? Or do I much rather go for a walk or do some work or watch a funny show or a comedy show or dance? Do I postpone the sugar intake that's going to perhaps affect my body and my health for something better? And if I do, I'm thinking more of how do I see myself in 2 to 7 years? Do I see myself sexy, lean, healthy because health is my wealth? Or do I just indulge in the here and now right now because right now is the only moment and we live for this moment? So I love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What do you think about that? I love to hear your thoughts about that. And then Americans feel that having time is more important than having money. This is also interesting to me because, for so many years, I've come to believe time is money. Time is money, right? And so more people believe that to be true, that your time is money, right? And so here, having the time versus having the money seems to be more important. So having more time. And, as we age, I feel that time goes by quicker and more quickly. And so perhaps because of that, we feel more that yes, time is more important. And time, the equivalent of our time, becomes more and more important. And, I'm starting to see that more and more now myself, in that I am choosing to release a lot of things that I used to do to focus more on my top three things. And I have a lot of to thank Dr. Hardy for that because it really brought about that thinking for me. And so I now I'm choosing more wisely where do I want to invest my time. And I do think of time as an investment. And so about a third of Americans have documented financial plan. Those who have one more those who have one feel more in control of their finances. That's also very good. And one of the things that my husband and I do, we review our finances like maybe once a quarter. And I just told him recently that I want us to start doing that like once a month. So, having enough money and perceived complication of financial plans are the biggest barriers to having a financial plan. Interesting. So, because you don't have money, you don't want to have a financial plan. That's what I'm understanding. But yet, isn't that when we most need to have a financial plan? Because our future self is determined by our current self. What we're doing today, I really believe, will determine our future. So if we don't have money now and we don't plan now, then what does the future look like? Hmm. In any event, I really am enjoying this. I hope that you are. I want to continue talking about this. And today I'm going to just encourage you to take a look at one of our upcoming events that I believe you're going to like a lot. We have an event coming up this Saturday and future Saturdays as more and more people are giving me feedback that they would like to have these events, these workshops that I do happen after hours or on Saturday. So I picked Saturday. And by visiting bizniversity.com/ three steps to fab, you're going to see that this Saturday at 2 p.m., we have a workshop. And this workshop comes with a marvelous workbook. I think it's marvelous or fabulous because I created it. And it's a 17-page workbook that we're going to start working on this Saturday and continue for the upcoming Saturdays until we hit the 90-day or 3-month mark. And we may change the date if that's what the majority of you decide that you want to change the date. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be diving deeper into these kind of topics in terms of how we feel about wealth and how do we create wealth or manifest wealth. And so we're going to talk about manifesting your fabulous future self or your fab rich future self, which is by using the method of FAB, feel, act, and be. And so this is for you if you're a woman who wants to unlock your extraordinary power to manifest and create and attract the life of your dreams. If you want to enjoy your life and if you want to start living as your fabulous rich self now. So remember, what we talked about today came from a financial planning firm, and it was talking about feelings. And I loved it because what we're going to talk about on our workshop on Saturday is about creating our future and allowing our feelings and high vibrating feelings, like we've been talking about in some of our past Fab Rich Women's Wealth Creation Wednesday shows. If you go back either by visiting fabrichwomen.com, you can listen to the series that I've been talking about on manifesting your fab rich future self now. So, what that means is today, starting today, you begin manifesting by implementing this method today, and it begins by you first feeling like you are fabulous, like you are rich, like you are wealthy. It begins by you feeling. And one of the best ways, and you can go back perhaps a month, that I shared to do that is by feeling gratitude. So I'm going to encourage you to check out the event. It's going to be a hands on event. I really hope that I see you there because I promise you that it's going to be a breakthrough experience for you. We're going to be working hands on how do we begin manifesting our fab rich future self now. And if that is what you want to do, then I want to encourage you to go to bizniversity.com, 3 steps to fab, and join our event. You have an investment for the one day. And if you want to continue for the next 3 months, you'll actually be investing for the 3 months and you can pay month to month. And so you'll see it when you go to the page. You'll see there all the details, okay, for you to check it out. And if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to find me on social media, DM me, send me an email, and reach out to me. Please feel free to ask me because I'm here to help you. Let me know what else you'd like to hear about. We're excited to have this conversation today based on this Charles Schwab survey. And also, we look forward to having you join us on Saturday for the Manifest Your Fab Rich Future Self Now workshop on Saturday, June 17th at 2 p.m. For now, I am Evie Diaz, strategic growth speaker at Bizniversity. I am very happy that you joined me today. I am grateful to you, and I look forward to seeing you Saturday and or hearing from you in the inbox. Make sure that you email me today. Thank you so much. Have an awesome Wealth Creation Wednesday. And I hope you took great notes and start thinking about wealth creation starting today. Thank you very much.